morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today. I always know it's a good day when I see your face because that means it's Friday.
We love a good Friday.
Any weekend plans? Well, snowstorm.
Oh, yeah, we're doing major prep. We've got soups, we've got firewood, we've got gallons of water. We are ready.
Don't you think it's like a little bit dramatic? Like the grocery store shelves being empty and everything?
Normally I would agree, but they are predicting like a foot and possibly a foot and a half of snow. DC shuts down when we get like 3 inches. So I think it also, my husband is a little bit of a prepper.
Doomsday.
So I'm letting him do his thing. It makes him happy, you know.
Maybe coming from Denver, I have been desensitized because of how much snow we get there. But I'm going to see how DC handles it.
Oh, it doesn't. Coming up on Rising, Attorney General Pam Bondi has announced that multiple people have been arrested in connection to the anti-ICE protests inside a church. Former CNN host Don Lemon, however, might be off the hook for now.
Plus, former special counsel Jack Smith testified on Capitol Hill to defend the integrity of his investigations into then presidential candidate Donald Trump.
And late night host Jimmy Kimmel told his audience that he might need their help again over new FCC guidance that could affect his show. But first, Lindsey, what's in your lens?
Let's talk about it. So when a president threatens pollsters instead of grappling with what voters are actually saying, that's a problem. This week, the New York Times and Siena University released a poll showing that a majority of Americans disapprove of how President Trump is handling the economy, immigration, foreign policy, and affordability. 51% say his policies have made life less affordable. Nearly half of voters, that's 49%, believe the country is worse off than a year ago. Now, those numbers don't just disappear because the president doesn't like them. Instead of addressing the substance of the concerns, Trump took to Truth Social to attack the poll itself. The Times Siena poll, which is always tremendously negative to me, especially just before the election of 2024, where I won in a landslide, will be added to my lawsuit against the failing New York Times. That's a quote from the president. Our lawyers have demanded that they keep all records and about how they computed these fake results. Not just the fact that it was heavily skewed towards Democrats. They will be fully held responsible for all of their radical left lies and wrongdoing. Another quote from the president on Truth Social. He followed that up with another post that read in part, quote, "Fake and fraudulent polling should be virtually a criminal offense." Polls are not crimes, Mr. President. Journalism is not sabotage. And threatening legal action every time the data is inconvenient does not change the data. The Times chief political analyst, Nate Cohen, summed this up plainly, writing that, quote, "Voters have an unfavorable view of Mr. Trump's performance on almost every issue tested in the poll." He noted that the numbers closely resemble polling ahead of Trump's 2020 loss. And the warning signs go beyond the economy. Immigration, a pillar of Trump's 2024 campaign, is now underwater. Just 40% approve of his immigration agenda, 58% disapprove. Among independents, 71% say ICE has gone too far with enforcement. That's not a messaging problem, that's a governing problem. Now, Trump argues Republicans are fixing an economy damaged by President Biden, but Americans don't live in talking points. They live in monthly bills. Inflation's up 2.7% year over year. The typical household is spending $184 more per month than last year and $590 more than 3 years ago, according to Moody's Analytics, not me. Grocery prices haven't meaningfully come down. Energy, medical care, coffee, and ground beef all cost more. This is not theoretical, it's everyday life. Trump already sued the New York Times for $15 billion. A federal judge dismissed it, calling the complaint legally empty. The New York Times says the revised lawsuit can be looked at as an intimidation tactic meant to silence independent reporting and generate PR attention. Well, good luck with that. Because suing pollsters and attacking the press won't lower grocery prices, won't stabilize energy costs, and won't make life more affordable. Governing will. And right now, voters are saying clearly they want less outrage and more results.
All right, so I actually agree with a lot of what you said. Primarily the idea that Trump is using his time and focus and energy to attack polls and media reports as opposed to actually fixing issues. And I think one of the problems that people have had in really the past 3 months of the administration is that they haven't seen the first 3 months where it was very action oriented, it was very policy driven. now it seems that there's a lot of grievances being addressed by the president, and that doesn't translate well when people are still feeling the pain of a slowly recovering economy post-COVID. And so I do think that the president is really wasting time on trying to sue media outlets as opposed to doubling down on fixing the actual issues.
And the lawsuit to me is one part of it, but the bigger part is that a lot of people say, like, when people are critical of the president, that it's just like, blame it on mainstream media or an unfair criticism. But polling, whether it's New York Times poll or a variety of others, have showed that there's been like a steady decline of support for the president, most particularly around how the economy is being handled. And so that bleeds into everything else. Like, as you ask people how they feel about foreign affairs or immigration, I'm sure there's a connection to the fact that they can maybe agree with some of the policies. Like I said, it's great that he's on this phase 2 of Israel and Gaza and trying to figure out how to quell that situation. But people at home were like, wait, you were the businessman in chief, and just looking day to day, the only thing that's down is pretty much gas, which again, I will point that out that is down from a year ago. But it's still like, where is the person that was supposed to be handling the issues that Biden was failing so miserably at? And then when you get into the actual issues that he's handling, even though he does have a large swath of Republican support with immigration, I think the public view is starting to sway with the major incidents in Minnesota. And you're seeing new polling that's showing that people, and we heard Joe Rogan and other podcasters speak about this, but are moving towards a place where they're like, well, maybe this is too far, or maybe some of the policies are too far. And so I'm just trying to figure out where he has like a core policies that his whole entire base is supporting, because it looks like the country, even the independents that got him in office, or the people that maybe didn't like his antics but like some of his policies, are now like, well, I don't even like the policies anymore.
Yeah, I think the immigration question is complicated because in polls where they ask about, do they think the Trump administration has gone too far, most people agree. But then there was a Plymouth Union poll that came out that found that people do disagree with the anti-ICE protests as well, right? They say that ICE should be able to do their jobs unimpeded, that they broadly support Trump's idea of doing mass deportation and getting illegals removed from the country. And so we see a lot of disparate numbers depending on how the question's asked. And so I do think on the immigration question specifically that we don't have a full, clear picture yet. But I agree that the economy is more obvious in that consistently across a number of polls, no matter what the question is, if it's economic related, people are dissatisfied.
And I think when we saw the president in Davos give a speech basically touting how much we've progressed economically specifically, and then how people feel, I think it's a fair criticism to say that it's similar to the tactic that was happening during the Biden administration, is that, oh, these polls say we're doing better, we are doing better, but people feel differently, and you're trying to convince them they don't feel what they feel.
We just have to explain Bidenomics to them, and then they'll get it. And there was that big gaffe by Brooke Rollins, the ag secretary, who was talking about the $3 struggle meals.
Oh my gosh, that's still going viral.
I know. It's like, even if you could, I mean, she doubled down on it because she went out and she said, well, look, if you buy this, this, and this, then you can do, 3 meals a day for $3 a piece, and it's totally fine. But the answer there is not to do the math and try to convince people. You should have never gone out in the first place and insinuated that the problem is that people are just not basically being judicious or frugal enough with their shopping habits. That never goes over well from a political messaging standpoint when you're dealing with economic issues. And so to me, it just seemed very tone deaf.
I think they need to have some more communication, like what's the messaging? Because even with Biden, there were small wins that I think his team could have pointed to show how progress is being made. But just telling people you shouldn't feel how you feel, I think, is a ridiculous stance to take. And that lands really well with people who are like, okay, groceries are really expensive, but you're telling me I should eat crackers, you know what I mean, and be full. Or like, figure out how to make this turkey last all week. It's like, people are really struggling. They're not making up these costs. I mean, there's a back and forth about products costing more because of some of the tariffs, possibly is Costco in the middle of suing the administration. So there's a lot of reasons why people feel economically even tighter than they did a year ago. And I think the president has to address it.
Yeah, and he needs to do more creative things like the ending institutional investors owning single-family homes. That type of creativity and bipartisan solution, I think, is what people want to see. Up next, former special counsel Jack Smith was testifying on Capitol Hill yesterday, and there were some fiery moments. We'll be right back with some of them.